Graffiti.
I'm Eric from Flux.
And then Turner also from Flux.
Canoe from Flux.
So we teamed up together to figure out how to extract equipment information from the 3D model to a database, and then utilize the database to help the owner to make decisions for the facility maintenance purpose. And the reason we're trying to do that is because as a general contractor, a lot of times we are asked to fill out the table that the owner requests to have all those property information populated for the owner, including like the equipment description, name, manufacturer, inspection date, and all those specs for this equipment for their use. And then the problem we have is a lot of times we cannot extract those information from the 3D model. Although a lot of this information is already embedded into the model, we have a hard time to extract the correct information to the database. And then we need to manually fill up the table. And so our first phase is to try to figure out how can we get the information from model directly in an automated way. And then second, a lot of times we turn this huge amount of data to the owner. They don't know what to do with it. They just put it in their folder and never opens it. So the second step for us is to help the owner to utilize this data to help them make decisions. And
So the first step there was to just get all this data in one place. So I'm running Windows VM here, and I hope it likes, there we go. Windows VM here on my Mac, and you can imagine this is maybe, it could be anyone's computer, honestly. It could be the architect's computer, it could be a general contractor's computer, and they're working on this little model. So this particular data, we actually pulled the equipment from Onuma, which is kind of cool, so another use of that data, getting that data in. And it's just a simple room, and it's got some equipment in it, but you can imagine this is one room of a bigger model. And now we've got this question, how do we put it into some form that's usable? So what we did was we did a couple steps, the first of which was to integrate with Dynamo, which is a visual programming interface for Revit built by Autodesk. And so I wrote this quick little script, and what it does is it pulls in all the geometry in our file here, and it brings it up to Flux. So Flux, I think I mentioned a couple times now, we do this sort of online collaboration and data sharing service. And the nice thing about it is that once we've built that script, this page here, which is our data page, gets automatically populated by anything in that script. So I'm not going to do it live here, but if I went in and I changed that model, if something changed on the construction site, or if I replaced a part, this model here would update automatically. But then we needed to attach all this additional data. And ordinarily, it might get lost, it might get dropped out, it might be put into the Revit model, but then it never gets moved into the final database. So what we did was we built up an Excel sheet to start, although this could just as easily be data directly embedded in the Revit model. And that Excel sheet right here has just all of our equipment types. Those are populated from Revit. So if you put something new into Revit, this would automatically update again immediately to show that new equipment line there. And then it's got a bunch of cost data. So when it was installed, what the price was, how much it's going to cost to remove it, the maintenance costs, this kind of thing. And within Flux, we took that data and then snapped it all together. So it's not as exciting to look at, but this array here is all that data snapped together so that every item in our geometry here also has all the data associated with it. So before I hand it over to Eric here, the last thing to mention is these red, green, and yellow blocks are not just blocks. They're actually they're simplified geometries of chemistry workstations, a computer workstation, a bunch of large steel tables, work tables, and a sink and cabinetry. So these are all things that you might have and might want to be taken care of. So this point's in Flux, and now we need to make sure it's usable. So that's where Eric comes in.
So as you've seen, this is a little demonstration flow of ours. We wanted to take a real use case and find ways in which we could tie together all these different systems to do interesting stuff. Just a little bit better. All right, so what you've seen several times now is Flux being used as a way of piping data between different software programs. You saw an example of Excel. You saw an example of Revit and Dynamo being piped through. You've seen before another group an example of Flex software as well. What Canoe's done is we wanted to start liberating this data for a host of other tests. And this is just a sample app built in Polymer, which we're really excited at Flux about. Web components, which is a new emerging standard for how we think the whole web will be built in the next couple of years. A lot of our technology is built on web components. So we're experimenting with a little toy app here that exposes the information from Flux in a secure way we can take anything that's been piped through, and instead of going to plugins that we've established already, we can allow any web app to pull that in. And so this JSON object that you saw before inside Flux is now pulled into a decision-making interface. And here we're actually pulling models from a building owner's decision-making process, looking at the net present value of replacing versus repairing a piece of equipment. So all of this, again, is coming from the Revit model, munged together with Excel data. So the building owner may want to manage all their financial data in Excel, and all of that is just coming together into an interface that lets them quickly look at various pieces of information or equipment and making quick decisions about it.
So a couple next steps on this. This is, we had a lot of other ideas that we'd love to put in here. And a couple of them I think are key. One is that on the left here, there's this full building model. On my left, your right, I guess. And right now, that's just displayed in Flux. It's only displayed in Flux in our web app. But what we want it to do is actually be displayed in full on the facility manager's page. So they could come to this page and see all their decision-making material, as well as all the location data about the building in the same place. So that would be one next step. Another one is that to take all this data that we've now pulled in from Excel and that the user can edit in the facility manager page and actually push that back into Revit. So now instead of this being a one-way thing, or in the near future, instead of this being a one-way thing where we can consume data and make decisions, we can now take any changes to that. So hey, I did go and replace this equipment. It's been updated as of last year. We can take that data and directly embed it back into the Revit file so that that can truly be your source of truth after construction completes. Or we can do this with another software instead, rather than allowing that to sort of stagnate and stop providing useful information after the end of the project.
And real quick, this web app is now mostly for collaboration in the future. Our partner firm here is now up on GitHub, so you guys can go check it out next to our web components, which are really cool. If anyone works on the web, you should check it out. So that's up, and we'll send out a link later for that. Kenny, did you want to discuss your hack a little bit? This is kind of like a connection of small hacks.
Not much to say. I mean, we formerly did not have a way of just like pushing something out publicly outside of our web app and available on the web, and I just like explained the others. It uses a Chrome extension. Chrome extension is actually it's actually quite interesting. Instead of APIs that are exposed.
So that's it.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.